very, very fancy intro music. Hey, welcome everybody to the RealAg Radio After Show. We just got off the air on Rural Radio 147. Had a great show today. Lots of great discussions. Some of it big picture, some of it kind of more long-term looking ahead into the future. Really enjoyed the conversation with Corny Thiessen, General Manager of Adama Canada. And I'm going to get some of Kara's perspective. I'm not sure if she heard the show, but I'll sort of give her a little bit of a precursor of what Corny said and then get her thoughts, what she has been hearing from some of the farmers out there that listen to the show and fans of real agriculture. We also heard from Megan Tennell, President of the Association of Equipment Manufacturers, talking about what the future of food production could look like. We weren't able to go through the 13 points in their white paper, but did kind of hit on some of the highlights. And we also did hear from Dave Gallant. He is with the Canadian Canola Growers Association talking about their advanced payments program. So lots of ground covered here today on the show. If you want to participate at all, we had some great participation yesterday. So you know what? It's a high bar. Join in the fun. You can comment or ask questions or give me your thoughts. So whether you're watching on YouTube or Twitter, just enter it into the chat. And as I sort of hinted to, joining me is Kara Oosterhuis, who is out on location. This is really professional stuff, Kara.
Yeah, we're doing live hits and everything. I'm just out actually getting some. I've been busy and on the road lots, getting all sorts of agronomic schools. So now, of course, with that comes a lot of visuals. So I'm out getting some pictures and photos and video out in the field. So it's good.
Now, yesterday on Agronomic Monday, we talked about some of the different conditions across the country. And you, like me, are in one of the real dry spots. So when you've got irrigation and dryland on your farm, so obviously the irrigation's in a lot better spot. But when you look at some of that dryland, what are you seeing? What's your thoughts?
When we're looking at the dry land, there's we seeded some lentils that we put about an inch into the ground because you're not even chasing the moisture because the moisture is too far to chase with the seed. It's just straight dust. And we're getting to the point that it's not a matter of, we're a few weeks away. It's we need rain in the next week or there'll just be no germination. And, I was actually out with Jack Payne yesterday, who is with South Country Co-op. And sorry, I keep coming out of the frame here. This is a mirrored version, and holding my phone, I'm like, oh, I gotta shift, and I'm sending myself off.
It's so funny.
Nothing but professionalism here. But anyways, I was out with Jack Payne and we were talking about, he said he had talked to a forage specialist, and don't quote me on these dates exactly, but he said between June 10th and June 20th is about the time in the year when, if the grass has not gotten any rain at that point, it just goes into dormancy. And any rain it gets after that actually is it's just saving up for next year. So if that gives you any kind of indication of how these plants are working, I know you and I have talked before too, it's the grass, it is the grazing it's terrifying how dry it is. And, but yeah, that's what he was saying. If it doesn't get it, he had heard if he doesn't get it by, that June 10th, June 20th, it's done. And, even I look in some of the coulee areas here is some really popular grazing areas, and it looks like August grass, not spring grass. So it's I don't mean to be complaining and talking about how dry it is, but it's we are really, really, really crossing our fingers. I'm sorry, campers, but we would love if May long weekend brought some snow.
Damn you, campers! Damn you! But then meanwhile, out in Manitoba, where Kelvin is, it's oh my goodness, will it ever stop raining? It's completely the opposite. Farmers not turning a wheel at all. And we are not getting into the would you rather have it wet, too wet or too dry discussion. They both really have their problems and they both suck. Farmers very concerned there. Obviously if you're trying to plant corn for grain, the calendar's not working in your favor as the days tick by. So we're likely to see some crop switching there. It's a whole different challenge, right? It's Mother Nature. Come on, cooperate here a little bit.
Well, and I think what a lot of people don't necessarily, you obviously realize it if you are in the ag industry, but a lot of people just watching and go, oh, well, the farmers can plant whenever, right? But there's crop insurance deadlines, and they are very quickly approaching. And it's amazing, though. I know Calvin just shared a map. Actually, I think Manitoba Ag released it
Yeah.
On the amount, they always have the different colors on the map, and it's like, that's very wet, very dry, whatever the color is. And I remember he shared that map last year, and it was just like dry, 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 dry. And now they're in the very wet side, and it is amazing how that works. It's how quickly that situation can flip, and it's like you said, it's unbelievably frustrating because you go, okay, yeah, great, we got moisture, but like, can we just have a mediocre year?
You know what, though? I've heard so many farmers on the Farmer Rapid Fire say, I just want to get to average. If I get average based on the prices, I can really make, if I get record yields, like, great, like, well, more than great. It's really like winning the lottery. But if I get to average, I know I'm really going to I can do well. And boy, I'll tell you what, not cooperating. Hey, Peter Johnson, a resident agronomist at Real Agriculture, is watching, and he's got a question for you, Kara. Did you get your wheat planted into moisture for germination?
Yes, we have Durham wheat that is on the farm that is coming up, so that is good. I think most of our dryland irrigation is coming up. Our dryland Durham just went in not that long ago, so it's not quite up yet. But the irrigation will be okay, but the rest, there's a lot of dust out there. And like I said, since you were here, Pete, I don't know if we've had more than a couple drops of rain. And Pete was here in what, April?
Mid-April. Yeah.
Yeah.
Early April. Yeah, no, I think that's pretty accurate. And even for the irrigation farmer, this is not like, you have water, but that's not easy peasy smooth sailing either, because you'd rather have rain falling from the sky.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, and you only have, like, I know there's a lot of people, you talk about irrigation. I mean, you and I could talk irrigation for a long time, but you're only allotted so much too, right? So that's an issue as well.
So on the show today, Kara, we heard, okay, before I get to cornythesis and anatema, McDonald's is de-arching, as they call it, which I thought was very creative. I thought that was really creative. They're de-arching out of Russia. And they have, what does it say here? Just give me a second. They have 850 stores and 62,000 workers in Russia. In Russia alone, that's more than I would have thought. They're going to try to sell all the stores. I wonder, as the war in Ukraine continues on, and the longer it gets, I wonder how much we'll see more egg companies, speaking out loud and saying, "Hey, we won't ship machinery there," or maybe we won't send seed there. Or maybe, we're not going to send crop protection products there. There's another side to that, which is, are we depriving people of food, and is that right? But I wonder how much we're going to see more of this, because McDonald's leaving Russia is a big deal. What do you think?
Yeah, that's it's something, you and I have been having this conversation for quite some time, but I know we were already really having this conversation at Commodity Classic. When was that? Beginning of March.
Yeah.
Talking to a lot of equipment manufacturers, and I'm most interviews, I'm pretty sure I didn't get through any interview without asking the question of, okay, so what are we doing about Russia? Are we still shipping to Russia? Are we still getting parts from Russia? That's the problem too, right? Is the supply issues there. And I think what I heard from a lot of, now I won't name names on companies, but what I heard from a lot of different companies was it depends how long this goes on for. I think it's very easy for companies right off the bat to say, oh no, we're not doing anything with Russia, but we need products from Russia in the next year. Now, I'm not saying I agree or disagree with that. That's, everyone can make their own opinion there. But I think the longer this goes on, the more people are going to struggle to say, okay, but then where are we going to get some of these products?
Yeah. The fertilizer situation has definitely really impacted Eastern Canadian growers for sure. So we had Corny Thiessen on from Adama, Canada today, and we were talking just about like very broadly about the supply chain and what's happening. They had a release out this morning about MCPA and some of the inventories and whether there will be some shortages of that product in Canada. But we also really hit on more of the broad discussion of what have we learned from some of the supply chain challenges. And he said, a month ago, if I would have asked him, he would have been very confident about 2023. But today he said, I don't know. I'm thinking that some of these issues are going to be here in 2023 as well, which is very similar to what we've been hearing from some fertilizer manufacturers. Right when I went off the air, I got a text from George who said, if companies are looking to make changes going forward, they should get rid of bundles. we didn't hit on that in the interview. So I got to ask you, do you like the chemical bundle?
Oh,
Put your farmer hat on.
Oh goodness. I think it depends on the size of your farm, really. Because for a larger farm, a bundle is very significant, and if you're not buying it in the bundles, you're struggling, I think. So I think that really comes down to size of farm, size of operation. To be honest, Shaun.
That's interesting. Because some people say to me, I like it because I'm using those products anyway, and I get a bit of a rebate, and I'm rewarded for the loyalty. But some people will say the other side of it, which is I feel like I'm forced into buying a product sometimes that maybe wouldn't be the best fit, but it economically is smart because I get a rebate check, stuff like that. So I've never thought about it from the standpoint of farm size. I wondered about number of crops. That's interesting.
Yeah, and maybe that's, I guess, me being down in southern Alberta. The larger your farm, we have a lot of different crops here, a lot of different crop options. So the larger the farm, often the larger the amount of crops you're dealing with too. So that's maybe part of where my thoughts are coming from.
Have you guys had any trouble on your farm getting supply of crop protection products at all?
Not so far. We were booked ahead of time, so that was good. But I know we're now having the conversation with things like diesel, and even if you had booked ahead of time, even if you had the crop or the farm right full, we've been busy. We've been filling machines, and they've been eating up the diesel. So now we're going, okay, we're gonna need more. And do we fill right up again, or where are we at? Because Shaun, you and I have had this conversation before, but talking to a lot of different analysts, it seems like, unfortunately, the answer is it's just going to keep going up.
Now, so we got an email during the show from Paul, and Paul was wondering, his local fuel retailer doesn't allow him to pre-book price. He has to take delivery. Do you know are you able to say, here's my fuel, here's how many liters I promised to buy in the next 12 months, but I'll take delivery, so much at a time because I don't have the storage. What do you guys do?
To be completely honest, I'm not totally sure on the answer there. What exactly goes on our farm? I know, I know we do. It is all for delivery, but I'm not sure if we make a promise per X amount. I know we're usually booking when it comes to, okay, we're getting empty, we're going to have to get another load of diesel out here.
Yeah, because there was a farmer on the Rapid Fire on the Thursday RealAg Radio show. It's got to be going back a month. Well, we were talking about fuel, and he said that their fuel supplier was going out 12 months where you had to promise, but then people were over promising, and then there was a punishment. So the retailer had shrunk it up to 6 months or something like that.
So I have not heard that, unless I'm way out of the loop. I have not heard that here yet.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you?
I'm sure I'll hear if I was incorrect on that.
We'll stop there. Are you? Yeah, I think we talked about on the show the average price of diesel. Now this is retail diesel. This isn't marked diesel, but the average price of diesel fuel now in Canada is $2.29 a liter. Yikes!
Yikes, indeed. Yeah, I think last I heard around here, farm fuel we could book for $1.49 or something like that, or farm diesel. So it's this crazy high, and I mean gas too. I mean we've been talking gas for forever, but I couldn't believe being back on the road yesterday. Like I think the cheapest gas I seen was $1.77.
Yeah.
Like in Alberta, where are we in Kelowna?
These are BC prices. What is going on here?
Prices, yeah.
What you need to do is take a run down to Conrad, Montana, or something. At least the fuel's a little bit cheaper there.
Yeah.
But then you got to cross the border and come back. Pick up some Michelob Ultra seltzers. I grabbed myself a couple cases on my way back last week. They're quite good.
Hey, and I think you've seen those new. I'm sure some of you guys have seen. There's the John Deere and the Bush.
Yeah.
Now the Bush Lights and the Bush Lattes, depends who you talk to, but they have a neat little down in the States. I think it's called For the Farmers or something like that.
Yep.
And they have a neat little partnership. If you buy, I think it's every dollar off of the purchase, Bush donates $1, and then John Deere donates $1 too. So kind of a neat way to have some, and I'm seeing all sorts of farmers out in the fields taking pictures and stuff too. And I mean, of course, it's a good marketing campaign too, but it's some fun.
Well, I think it was Kurt Busch, NASCAR on the weekend. His car was for the farmers. It was like the Busch car, and it was all in the green. And yeah, I was at a number of town pumps we stopped at to fill up with fuel. They had like the big, like where they've stacked all the cases, like these big. And I think it was like, what did I tell you it was? It was like 30 beer for like $5, something like that.
Oh,
no, it wasn't that cheap. I think it was
a little higher than that. But did you see? I'm like, you're remembering that very wrong, Shaun.
I think it was 30 beer for $16 or $18 or something like that.
Yeah, it was dirt cheap compared to what we can get it for.
In Canada, those 30 beer would cost what, $100? Maybe. Maybe it wouldn't be that.
Once again, maybe a little on the high side, but yeah.
We're full of hyperbole here today.
Beer's $5 in the States, and here it's 100.
Bloody taxes. Take that.
Bloody taxes.
Also on the show today, we talked about it was referring to Rob Sharkey's show, which is before us, Shark from Radio. He was interviewing a producer of Elk and Bison. Oh. And I love a good buffalo burger. But I sort of asked the question, around here, there's, a few people have tried to strike it rich. There's like ostriches. Elk and bison have different cycles, have been a part of that. Do you have any neighbors around you doing bison or elk?
We did, not anymore. There was for a long time, one of our neighbors had bison, but he retired, moved away. Bison moved with him, but I think that's probably the craziest we had. I mean, unless you count my goats, but I don't really eat them. So. Although it is, I will say if anyone's eaten goat, we're totally squirreling here. You raise these things and you're like, I really should probably try one of these things. Hey, so if anyone's got any ways they've had goat, it seems like the consensus is currying it. But I think we might butcher it. So Shaun, if you want to come for some goat,
I'll try goat. Why not?
When in Rome?
Yeah.
Or Bow Island, whichever.
When in Rome, is that like what people do in Bow Island? Is like the specialty of Bow Island, Alberta? Is like, here's some steamed lentils and some goat. Yeah,
here's some pinto beans and some steamed goat. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Pete says, "How is today any different in hyperbole?" Pete, well, yeah, exactly. Hyperbole.
Pete is a walking, talking hyperbole, okay?
So, hey, before I let you go, Kara, yesterday you were filming some schools. What'd you all cover?
So we covered, now this is going to be, of course, very kind of southern Alberta pulse growing area. Oh, Peter, sorry, I'm getting distracted. Pete says, count me out on the goat. I think we're going to get you to try it, Pete. Come down. Anyways, so one of the conversations we talked about was rolling your peas in drought. What do you do? Because of course, those particles become even finer. And there's another consideration, wind. The wind will not stop blowing here. So do you go across and risk even more erosion? So we talked about that. We talked about, of course, so that's a pole school you'll see. We did a canola school on going out and actually checking your seeding depth, how important that is, especially when it comes to flea beetles. And, we all kind of, and not to point anyone out, but it is so easy to go into the field, you quickly scratch the surface, go, okay, looks great. But get out and check that drill a couple times because it is so important. And because I know the one guy I was interviewing, he said he sees quite regularly a difference of, half an inch of the canola being down, and then some are 3 inches down. And the problem is if it all emerges at different times, flea beetles are going to come after those first ones, and they're just going to go to town because your stand's going to be so thin. So we discussed that. We also discussed, Jeremy Boychin and I discussed scouting techniques, what you're going to want to look out for. If you're wanting to call your agronomist and you say you have issues in the field, what are some of the pictures you're going to want to paint, both literal and actual figurative pictures, but or vice versa there. So those kinds of things. So we got a couple canola schools, couple pole schools coming your way, couple wheat schools coming your way, PGR timing, and PGR risks, if we're into drought conditions, things like that. And we got quite a few schools done, and it's that time of the year. We're busy out in the field, and we're just excited to bring you guys all the topics. So it's good.
On the rolling, that's a great topic where it's so dry because that roller could crush the stubble that actually is there. And do we create more wind erosion through, or soil erosion due to wind in the fall if we don't get the, any sort of growth on that ground in the drought zone? But also think about Manitoba as the other extreme. Do you go out rolling when there's that much moisture? 'Cause I fear compaction in that situation. So there's a lot of unanswered questions.
You will actually rip out the crop. It'll come right out onto the roller if it's that wet and sticky. So you really want. I know I've been out rolling, and even if it starts, we forget what rain looks like here, but there's been years when it does rain, and you're pretty well stopping immediately rolling because you just want no moisture. So, and we talked about morning. You don't want to go out in the morning because of dew or because of plants being brittle, things like that. So we kind of had a good discussion on rolling, and it's interesting because I follow this page on, I think it was on Twitter, and it's some tractor pulling page or something. Somebody had posted a video, and they had seen a tractor going down the road with a roller behind it, and everyone was so confused. They're like, what on earth is this giant, like, those little rollers? Is this construction equipment? And it's like, no, that is and I will add one more thing we kind of discussed with rolling is okay, yes, it's dry, but there's only so long you can wait to roll too. So if you decide you're going to wait for some moisture, you don't want to wait too late because then those peas are sensitive and you're gonna hurt them. So there's a lot of different considerations to keep in mind.
Great stuff. Looking forward to all that content on the crop schools. Hey, Kara, have yourself a good day. I'll let you get back to your crop scouting.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Shaun.
Thanks to everybody that tuned in today for the RealAg Radio after show. These are fun because we get done the radio show and I'm just like, I'm not done. We still got stuff to talk about. Let's keep rolling. And this is a fun way to do it. And we'll try to do it as much as we can through the growing season. We will have an after show as well again tomorrow. So please come back and join us. And if you didn't get a chance to catch RealAg Radio live on Rural Radio 147, you can always download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Hey, thanks so much for joining us here today. Thanks for the interaction. And we'll check you again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody.